Evan and Martiel, welcome to the SABM podcast.
Hello.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I always love when there's two guests. It's you guys. It challenges me, to facilitate. So good to have you guys both on, and excited to learn a little bit more about GivMoo, which is a company that you started. And maybe just to kick things off, Evan. I know you and I connected about 7 years ago, so it's been a while. And this is a new venture for you, and would love maybe just kick off with an intro, and then would love to hear from you, Martial, after that.
Yeah, so Naval Academy 2008. I ended up working in pharmaceutical quality control for about 15 years. The last 10 of which was in quality control testing for the legal cannabis market. And that industry has gotten to the point where I decided I needed to go find a new career. So part of that, a mid-career shift to completely change industries is a little intimidating when you think about it, but I leveraged all sorts of different networking assets, different things, and ended up meeting Martiel about 2 years ago. And about 6 months after that, she invited me to work on a project with another nonprofit, and it's just kind of all gone from there.
Awesome. And Martial, tell us about yourself.
Um, this is business number six for me.
All right.
Um, yeah. Went to school to be an applied anthropologist. Got hit in the head, forgot most of it, forgot my name for almost a year,
Oh gosh.
learned to write with the other hand, and then decided that I could not watch another show on Netflix or was gonna go crazy. So in 2010, I started teaching art classes online, which is where this all started. And I was like, oh, well, I have to promote this somehow to get students into my class. And it sold out in like 3 hours.
Oh wow.
And I was like, oh, well, that is easy. I don't know what everybody's complaining about. And turns out, long story short, um, apparently what I thought was intuitive was not for most people. So I became the accidental marketer, and that brings us here. And I've had an online art community. I have done like merchandise, consulting, branding, advertising, yeah, a little bit of it. So
Awesome. And there's some stuff I want to dig into there. Maybe we'll get to it in a little bit. I don't want to get too far off track, but sounds like you have a really the entrepreneurial skill set. So maybe that whack in the head I made you a bit crazy, and want to go start all these businesses. So congrats on all of your success. Tell us about GiveMoo. So it's an online marketplace that drives purpose-driven commerce. Where did you come up with the idea? Tell us a little bit about it.
Evan, why don't you kick off this crazy story? And you just let me know when you'd like the peanut gallery to contribute.
Sounds good. So like I said a minute ago, we started working on this project together. Martiel and some of her folks she's worked with and known in the DC area last year wound up forming a company to handle the merchandise sales for WorldPride that came to DC last summer. Um, and it was a single client contract and a single event contract. And it was kind of a mess. A lot of kind of learning opportunities moving forward, but we did manage to, like, we didn't have any advertising support because part of the contract was that the uh, nonprofit we were working for would handle the advertising and marketing.
Hmm.
So we're running the merch store online and in person, but we can't advertise it at all. So we're doing sort of guerrilla marketing on social and handing out flyers to street vendors in DC and doing all this stuff. We did end up making about $20,000 in sales on the online marketplace in 2 months, but we were about 50 grand in the hole at that point. So Martiel and I are just completely fried and want to take like a little vacation. Like, well, let's go rent a sailboat. I haven't sailed in a while. I was looking at it in Annapolis to rent a sailboat for one day was $1,200. And like, company thing kind of not working out. I'm not in the mood to do that right now. So I get on Boat Trader and find an old 1970 Weekender for $400. It's like, why don't we just drive down there and see if it floats? Um, so we drive down there on a Thursday, and that's the first day of the final weekend of the event. And we have about 8 or 10 folks out there selling merchandise on the mall in DC. And as we're going down there, we have this whole $50,000 loss, but we did really good online, even without marketing in our heads. And we start doing our after action assessment of like, this can never happen again. How can we do this differently? What sort of things can we bundle together to make this work? And I'll let Martiel tell the story of kind of how that thought process happened. But the good news is by the time we bought the boat on Saturday, we had $55,000 on the Stripe account from on-site merchandise sales. So even though the overall project was just felt like this complete dumpster fire, we did at least break even in the end and have a chance to really assess what happened and how we can make it better. So,
Oh, wow.
all
Yeah.
yours, Martiel.
Yeah. I kept thinking, what went wrong? And then I was like, I don't have enough paper to list all of the things that went wrong. So I started thinking about what went right and what areas that we had control of could we improve? Like, how could we make that work better in the future? Had we known everything that we learned from this project? And I came to this realization that it couldn't just be one client. Like, none of my businesses in the past have ever like relied on a single client or a very small group of clients. It was always very diversified. I was part of the leadership, but I wasn't the person making the decisions in the end. And I realized that I could not ever do that kind of structure again. I needed to have like ownership of the decision, because had I been able to do that, I think it might have changed the outcome a little bit. But long story short, I just started like dumping all of these ideas, and eventually I went back and I was thinking, this is an ongoing problem for nonprofits around the world. It's not just the United States. It's not just this project. It's everywhere. The conversation about funding has been going on for a long time. And then I remembered a book I had. I am an AmeriCorps Vista volunteer. So if you don't know what AmeriCorps Vista is, it stands for Volunteers in Service to America. I spent 2 years doing that. So sort of like the domestic Peace Corps. And while I was doing that, I was in an event and I got this book called Century of the City. And it was published by the Rockefeller Foundation. And what was tremendously interesting about it was that at that time, and I mean, this is not a small book. You should look it up. Like, it's almost 2 inches thick. And I mean, this is like, you could smack someone with this and injure them. This is like a book with some gumption. And really, the problem they were trying to address is society and community is changing. If we don't change with it, funding and fundraising for nonprofits is going to be very negatively impacted. I was like, well, that's an awfully huge problem to solve, but, you know, it was insightful. Essentially, at the end of the day, basically, they called it exactly how it's happened. Over the last 20 years, we have had a huge influx into urban centers. Like, that's why they call it Century of the City. Like, people are leaving rural and even suburban areas and moving much closer into city centers. So we're more transient. We're less connected to our communities like we used to be. We're not going to church as much as we used to. And so people don't have a connection to their community. So why would I give money to a community I don't know? If I don't go to church, I'm not tithing part of my money to something. You know, like, there were all of these things. And so that flash forward, and I was like, wait a second, like, what if nonprofits were able to just sell not just shirts and apparel and accessories like they do at their events, but what if they could sell like toilet paper subscriptions and coffee clubs and, I don't know, like any number of things, pencils when your kid runs out of them at school, or shoes and socks. And that, would the math work out? And that's where Evan comes in. He's the math guy. I'm like, would it work out if we were a wholesaler and we functioned as a wholesaler? Could we actually give all the retail profits, like a for-profit entity would get, how they get when they sell merchandise on site for an event? They buy it from a wholesaler, they sell it at retail. Could that work? And could we be the advertiser and the turnkey manager? Could we manage all of it and the math work out? So that's when Evan he said, let me think about this, and went like totally deep dive, Alice, straight down the rabbit hole into the math. So Evan can
Yeah, that's where 10 years of being a professional analytical chemist and my knowledge of spreadsheets has really done me well. We spent June and July really trying to kind of massage it and make sure that we've got all of our costs and incomes and fees and percentages figured out. And then we started looking at the team and at the business and the CEO of that particular company. And by August, we had all kind of decided that this really should be spun off as a different company. And he actually, the CEO of that company, actually introduced us to an investor syndicate that we've been working with ever since. And we spent the next couple of months sort of getting GivMoo started and finding the website and everything else. The website, Martiel, why don't you tell him why it's called GivMoo, and I'll tell him why it's spelled funny.
It's actually kind of funny. So because I've done so much in branding and advertising, and I've worked with really small one-person businesses up to very large international companies. And there is one thing I know about a naming convention, is that it needs to be short, meaning ideally one word, no more than 2 syllables. It needs to be easy to spell if you hear it. And it needs to easily paint a mental picture when somebody says, la la, whatever it is. Think of like some of the really classic brands like Pandora Jewelry, Under Armour, Target, Walmart. Like, there is a mental picture that comes to mind when you say the word that's the name of the company. So that's where GivMoo came in, because it's like, we're giving more just naturally, and maybe there's a cow in there that's mostly ridiculous because there's moo, but it doesn't really need to be. And So we set out to find a domain that, because we didn't have GivMoo in our heads when we started this. It was like, we need to come up with something short and sweet. So then we started looking everywhere, and we tried to find a domain, and everything was purchased. So if you are looking for a domain, do not go to ChatGPT or any other AI, because domain register companies go there, they mine for these domains, and then they buy them up in mass. And so that's why you're getting weird, really weird name stuff. So anyway, Evan and I found GIVEMOO, and then we also found GIVNOEMOO, which is what we settled on. And this is I think this is just the cherry on top, right, Evan?
Yes.
Yeah.
Apparently the E was worth $39,995 because they
So you
wanted
saved
40
yourself a few
grand.
bucks.
Yeah. So they wanted
Yeah.
40 grand on that, or GiveMoo was $5.
Well,
And
that
both of us actually grew up on cattle farms, and we're like, Mutilda, cow, branding, done. Sounds great.
yeah. So let's walk through the kind of the problem that you guys solve, and just so that I understand it. I'm not in the nonprofit space. I certainly know that there's a challenge there with fundraising, and some people are good at it, some people aren't good at it, and you kind of feel for folks that like, hey, they started this nonprofit. It's usually a really great cause, like, it's a cause that they care deeply about, but like being a fundraiser is a completely different skill set than probably what it takes to start a nonprofit. So where does the marketplace come in, just so that I understand it? And maybe even going back to your first project that you were involved with. So a nonprofit, came to town or to a convention. They wanted to sell their products, and you guys were in charge of helping them sell those products. Is that how you kind of got it
Close.
close?
Close. So they were actually a local nonprofit that had
Okay.
gotten a contract from the DC government to be the like branding and merchandise head for the event. And then they
Okay.
subcontracted out to us the merchandise portion. And the idea was that had we had effective marketing and advertising to go with that, that we would end up making so much in merchandise sales that they would end up with way more money than they had put up front to kind of seed fund the whole thing. So there was supposed to be a fairly healthy ROI on their initial outlook. Um, but I'll give you a couple of statistics on sort of the problem right now. First time donors, only 19% of them become repeat donors.
Mm.
And the top line big money donations, like the Gates Foundation and things like that, the overall dollar amount is going up slightly, but the number of large donors has gone down by 10% just in the last year. And the traditional sort of event fundraising, well, they always have to put an outlay there. They're always taking a risk, right? They have to bulk order things and hope it all sells, or they wind up with a bunch of stuff in somebody's garage. And you also have just how transient everyone is. I mean, I've lived this myself, and been involved in a few nonprofits locally, and for 10, 15 years in Anne Arundel County, Maryland, I've seen sort of like, why can't we get any people in the door? Why isn't bingo raising enough money anymore? Why can't Sunday breakfast pay the bills anymore? And it's because that's not what people are interested in anymore. And you know, to your point earlier of the different skill sets is, you know, not not every nonprofit has a volunteer that has experience with marketing. And marketing in this is such a powerful thing, but it's also really not cheap at all. I mean, the reason that we've decided to go out for external investment isn't so much the overhead, it's that in order to really make an impact and scale this rapidly, we need to start spending over 6 figures a month in ad buys right out of the gate. In order to, we're going to we're targeting a market penetration of 60 people out of every million Americans need to make one purchase on this site every month in order to realize all the promises and dreams we have here. So that's an incredibly small percentage. I think it's like 0.00058 or something is the number. So this will be a vehicle that allows folks to do their normal purchasing. They can target it to different nonprofits, whether they're local or not. They can support a cause instead of a particular nonprofit. You can get to know different communities out there. We are already a national and international business. One of our consultants is in London. We've got a couple of our employees in Colorado and California. And the 21st century technology, especially post-pandemic, and I mean, you've done this with your company as well, where if everybody can get on a Zoom call and have a normal meeting and get used to using some project management tools, you can do all sorts of things at a national and international level you weren't able to do before. So one of the things we hope with this is that folks can find the nonprofits that they really kind of sync with, whether they're near or far, and then be able to support them, sign up with their newsletters, become a supporter. So that
And
was
who
a
comes
little
up
bit
with
of
the
problem, a little bit of solution, but
yeah, and the product idea. So how do they come up with like I want to sell this product and then post it
so
on the
with
marketplace?
that, part of the turnkey there is we're trying to eliminate the tyranny of choice, to your point. Through our distributor network, we have access to thousands of suppliers and millions of products. And we're really paring down and connecting directly with print on demand and ship on demand providers. Some of the most well-known ones are Printify and Printful. You can go on and use those like Vistaprint any day of the week. A lot of nonprofits do that themselves internally. But the problem with that is you're at the very bottom of the supply chain, and there's about 8 markups between you and the $3 t-shirt. And what we've done by becoming distributors, we've cut about 5 of those markup steps out of the way. And we have direct connections to these suppliers, so we're bypassing all of that. Remind me the question, I'm sorry.
Yeah, and then so the products are they products that are branded like as the nonprofit or
That's
like
it. Yeah.
okay, so it's like, hey, I've got
Yeah.
this
So
nonprofit. Yeah.
so we have both.
Okay.
So part of the turnkey piece of this is every nonprofit gets the same 20 products, maybe colors change, but kind of your normal stuff, cups, t-shirts, polos, tote bags, just 20 branded products with their logo or artwork of their choice, same thing across the board. And then they all also get 40 products, which can be decorated with artwork they supply. We can help them develop artwork if they want, or we can do it blank. So we can actually ship name brand stuff like Columbia or Under Armour without any additional artwork on it. Just ship direct to the customer one at a time. So that's the ship on demand side since there's no printing involved. So everybody gets 60 products. We monitor it monthly to change out losers and pick new winners. We also have kind of a GivMoo give back fund that we can talk about it a little bit later, but part of that is where we can put products up that are maybe a little more experimental and see how they perform before we push them out to various nonprofits.
Awesome. And they can also go to their existing customers, I'd imagine, and say, hey, we've got all these products, would love, so there's that angle. And then there's the angle where Martiel's genius kind of comes into play from a marketing perspective, helping build awareness of these nonprofits, and targeting people who might want to learn about them and might want to purchase their products. And so, and then all of that leads to money in the bank for the nonprofits.
That's right. So we kind of escrow all of it and then give time for the sales cycle to settle down, returns, different things like that, and distribute quarterly to them.
All right. Martiel, how do you imagine? I'm a marketing person, so how do you imagine like the ads like looking, or like what's like the hook? Like, so somebody's scrolling through, like how are they, what do you imagine as far as like what would bring somebody to the website, from a marketing perspective to want to purchase, or, how are you kind of thinking through that, like from an advertising perspective?
So, myself and our marketing director, apparently, I didn't even know this when she joined us, but she and I share a brain. It's beautiful when you have people on your team like that. You're like, oh, it's so great. And so one of the things is about nonprofits is that they tend to be very stretched thin. And so we thought, okay, well, if we wanted to create a line of gifts like weddings, new house, new baby, graduation, retirement, like all of those kinds of things, we would need something like a database of artwork to pull from, because our nonprofits are working their fingers to the bone doing what they do best, which is fundraising and fulfilling on their mission, right? And this GivMoo is filling the gap. Like, it's designed to keep the lights on, keep the internet on, pay the rent, like give bonuses. Like, you're not going to make $1 million at GivMoo, but you could make a few $100,000. And I guess when we thought about this, we were like, okay, so we need some really great artwork so that we can promote this out into the world. And people, really what it comes down to is whatever we sell needs to be things that people actually want to use or buy. Like, that's great that you sell a magnet that has your logo on it, but after I buy one and I put it on my fridge, like, I'm not going to buy another one of those. But, like going to the toilet paper thing, like it's so crazy. Like, I feel like, and Raylene, her and I go back and forth on this, but we are really going to ask people, we want you to choose one category of things. One, you do not need to stop using other major retailers. In fact, we encourage you not to stop using them, because we cannot be that all in one. We're not looking to overtake other retailers. We do not want to position ourselves as that. We're asking that people take one category of things that they buy, and instead of buying them from their local grocery store, from like on other online retailers like Amazon or Target or whatever, or like through Instacart delivery, buy that one thing on GivMoo. Because now you don't actually have to do anything different than what you're doing. And there is at least 20% of the total price, which is the standard average retail profit on a product. Some are more, some are less, going back to an organization of your choice. And There's no funky links or anything like that. We want to make this so easy, and it really is. But what we're thinking is just pick one category of things. Maybe this year you buy all of your nieces and nephews Christmas and holiday and birthday gifts from GivMoo. Maybe this year you buy all of your socks and shoes for your kids from GivMoo. Like, pick a category and make it easy, because the major brands and then the dupes, as which is another whole other category into itself. The duplicates, which are like you have a Stanley Cup and then a look-alike, basically. And there's a whole tranche of people who are like obsessed with duplicates. But we want to make it easy. And that's what the marketing is going to focus on is don't change what you're doing. Simply shift one category from wherever it is to here. And do it for a year. Give us a chance. Do it once. And that's really and we want to make it fun for people so you can get handmade stuff, but it's not just toilet paper and cleaning supplies, but there's artwork and clothing and a little bit of everything.
Yeah, so you're providing a giving strategy for somebody, and certainly anybody, we feel good when we give, and and that sort of thing. But I mean, this is kind of a way where somebody can, I mean, I guess I was just like looking at my pen, right? I'm like, wow, like that could be like one thing where, hey, I just order my pens that I use every day, for work, from GiveMoo. And every day, every time I look at it, it kind of reminds me of like, wow, like this pen made some sort of an impact in somebody's life, helped a nonprofit founder, with their organization. And I don't know, like right now I just get them from Amazon just because I get them from Amazon. Like, I don't know. So if you,
Right.
but the whole thing clicked for me, like when you described it that way is like, hey, people want to have a giving strategy. Let's make it easy for them. And let's also like kind of give them like a product or something as well in return. And it's really like a win across the board, in a number of ways. So I appreciate you breaking that down for us.
Yeah, and one other thing is that GiveMoo is positioned right now really only to focus on shipping to North America. We're not doing anywhere else other than the US territories, and Canada, because we really need to test this domestically. But also, we are only accepting nonprofits that are registered and in good standing in the United States. So when you buy something from us, it's quite literally staying here. And this is one of those threads, and I bet you can think of a few times that you've heard it. Why aren't we sending more money back into our education system, back into our community, dealing with homelessness, dealing with veterans affairs? Like, where do we get the money? It's there. It's right there. And like for the foreseeable future, at least for the next 3 to 5 years, I am guessing, if I was a betting woman, that like us expanding outside of the United States is probably pretty low, if at all. So, but Evan might be able to speak more to that. He's the numbers guy. I let him be the numbers guy.
Yeah, no, we're not looking beyond the United States anytime soon. Keep
Yeah. And what
everything
would you,
as simple as we can and keep all the funding.
yeah. And as you look out over the short term, so we just started, the Q2, you know, um, the year is underway, as you look out, over this quarter and maybe just through the rest of the year, what are some of your most important goals short term? And then where do you see this thing going? Like if you had to look out over the horizon 3, 4, 5 years from now, and you could wave a magic wand, what would you like to see?
Yeah, well, we are going to start launching our accredited investor crowdfunding campaign near the end of April, April 21st. It goes live. Later this week, we're going to have a web page up for them to go ahead and get approved if they want to, or just sign up for the newsletter. Um, so for the next 30 to 90 days, we're going to be focused partly on getting a $2 million investment so that we can take that and primarily spend about 60% of that on advertising over the next 6 months after we close. While that's all going on, we've got a sales team that we've gotten all trained up and put together because the website and the marketplace is really the mission, but we are a distributor and we can sell bulk orders. And just due to the margins that we're comfortable with, because we're able to give all this money back to nonprofits, we're also able to beat market rates by about 10% across the board for nonprofit or for-profit businesses. Um, so we've got some guys out there doing the bulk order sales. We're standing up the team, getting the core team right. So Martiel obviously is very happy with our marketing director hire. Kind of getting all the folks in place, getting our processes figured out so that when we do get the investment money, we can really scale rapidly and hit the ground running. By the end of the year, I don't expect us to have a positive year, but I expect us to have a positive Q4. And then by the end of next year, we should be in the $10 million gross range for just absolute sustainable scaling and incremental gains on that. This kind of idea, we really think in year 2 or 3, we're going to start getting lookalikes, but we need to make ourselves a Kleenex instead of a facial tissue. And once we kind of go through our business cycle, so to speak, in that way, just a nice, sustainable, repeatable business. And honestly, if I have 3 months of that in a row, the good idea fairy might come to Martiel and I again, and we'll find something else to make it even better.
Yeah. How about you, Martial? I know you're like, I know you got a moonshot kind of a goal, or where or are you gonna, or is this, business number 7 and then on to business number 8, or what's kind of like what are you thinking as like you look out over into the future and, where do you see all of this going? What impact would you like to have?
Well, um, so I guess I'm gonna get really personal for a minute. Um, I my partner Chris, I met about I met 6 years and 18 days before he died. Um, and he had a very rare form of cancer. In fact, about 1,500 people worldwide have it. Uh, Neuroendocrine of the thymus. Um, and yeah, he lived much longer than he should have. They gave him 9 months. He lived 5.5 years. Like, pretty incredible. But what that man did for me was he gave me seed funding to build a business. And he gave me, like, this is such an incredible gift that he gave me. And like, it paid back like a millionfold, to the point where I was able to sell the contracts to my to MB Branding Solutions, my 2 businesses ago. Yeah, in the fall of 2024, and make a substantial financial donation to like cancer research specifically for this. And like, I gave away all but $10,000. And people look at me like, what? But it's really important to me that when I am able to give back, that I am generous, because we have angels everywhere in many ways. Um, and that's not woo woo. It's like, you know, you can have an angel in like bumper to bumper traffic, the person who lets you over. Oh, thank you so much. Like, you had your blinker on for 2 miles. Um, so the point is that I really want this business to be an opportunity for me to, I guess it's sort of cliche, but it really summarizes it. It just pay it forward. Like, he gave me a gift that I I was not expecting. Um, and if I can do that for hundreds, if not thousands of organizations in a way to help them impact communities, and I mean, like, it could be veterans related, it could be women and children, it could be homelessness, it could be food scarcity, education. Like, there are a lot of causes that people care about. And I just, like, it was so easy for me to make that donation. And it sounds insane, but I think that almost everyone wants to make a difference. But how do you do it and how can you afford it? They're not going to think about, I'm going to write a check to my local food pantry every month or go buy $100 worth of groceries. You may not be able to afford $100 worth of groceries to give away. Um, but if you have to buy pencils and shoes for your kids every August and you don't have to do anything, but it still goes back into your local community, it empowers people and they don't have to change anything. And I kind of, the word disrupt always comes up, and I'm like, I'm not a disruptor, but I think that that is ultimately what's going to end up happening here. And I guess I just want to kind of shake the tree more than anything and give people an opportunity to experience the gift that Chris gave me when I was able to do something and change something about my life. And like, now all of that donation is changing other people's lives, like leading cutting edge research for this specific type of cancer. So I
Thank
think
you.
that's really where it comes from.
Well, thank you, Martiel, for sharing that story and opening up. And uh, I think that's a good place to leave it. And for folks that are interested in reaching out to you guys and learning more, what's the best way for them to do that? To connect with you, to learn more about GiveMoo and get in touch.
One cheap and easy way, we're both on LinkedIn, easy to find there. Also, GivMoo.com will be fully operational and live later this week. So you can contact us that way. We have givmoo.com/invest if you're interested in participating in the crowd raise. And I think that's about it. We're pretty easy
Yeah.
to find, to be honest.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's an easy website to remember. You made it. You got a good marketing
Give
person.
moo without the E. Yep.
So I'll link to your put your LinkedIn profiles in the show notes if that works for you guys as well as your website. You guys will be presenting to the investor group over the next few months. Look forward to seeing you guys there. Hopefully you connect with some investors. And this has been a lot of fun. Thank you both for joining the podcast today. Martiel, thank you again for sharing your story there at the end. It was just an incredible mission that you guys have. You have a beautiful heart, and again, here's to an awesome 2026. And see you again soon.
Thank you so much, Scott.